Dunderheads are back in charge. All right. So, do you like Geek Check? What's the font? Star Wars. And who would say it that way? Yoda. The theorem Pythagorean, must you know. I know, right? I know, I get that all the time. My son says, Dad, you're such a doofus. I'm like, son. And then he's like, I mean, I like it, but I bet your kids think you're a real clown. Yeah, they probably do. But what are you going to do? They still have to laugh. They're stuck there. Okay, this is review. You already know this. I know you know it. You know it. But it's one of those things that you know so well that you screw it up because you kind of gloss over it. Understand? So I know that you don't need to learn it, but I also know you have a test tomorrow, so why not review something that you already know that won't get in the way of your test tomorrow? Plus, it still shapes, so it's a little helpful, right? Plus, it's still filling in a formula, so it's a little helpful. So, everybody think in your head, and one or two people can offer the answer to me. What is the hypotenuse? Everybody says that, Abresia, and you're absolutely right. But I'm going to listen to her for a second first. But I'm looking at you. Simi, what? Sammy! Simi sits there in the other block. Damn it! Thank you. You're both right. Okay? Abresia says it's the longest side. Now, there's a problem with that. Why? What is wrong with using that definition? It's not very specific, but why isn't it specific? How do you know I have the longest table here? What would you have to do to know that it was the longest table? Measure it. Is this measured? No. You understand what I'm saying? So longest side, it absolutely is the longest side. I agree with you 110%. But without measurements, we can't technically say that. Now, Sammy, what'd you say?
Like the one facing the 90 degrees.
Yeah. It is a better definition, is what Sammy says, which is it is the side. Now, she used the word facing the 90-degree angle. I'm going to use a trigonometry word that I want you all to learn. It is the side opposite. Because for this entire unit, opposite means across. It is the side opposite the right angle. And the reason I make such a big deal out of this is if I draw this triangle a different way, does the hypotenuse change? No, it is still the side across from the right angle, no matter how I rotate the shape. Okay? I know this seems elementary to you, but believe me, 17 years of marking tests and having kids think that by turning something upside down, it changes the rules. It's a fight that is very difficult for me to win, and I don't know how to win it. If I were to get hooks on my feet and hang like a bat from the ceiling and write all this down on here while I was speaking, would the math be the same? Yes, even though I look different. If I came in here dressed like a witch? No, what? Dressed like Donald Trump. Okay. If I came in here dressed like Donald Trump, would the math be the same? Technically, no, because Donald Trump doesn't really understand math if you listen to anything that man says. No, he doesn't. But that's what happens when your great-grandfather makes billions of dollars with hookers and booze and then gives it to you. It's true, Sammy. Donald Trump's money comes from a brothel and a bar in Dawson City, Yukon during the gold rush. All of his money is from, instead of hookers and blow, hookers and booze.
That's so funny.
And then, because his great-grandpa made that much money, he was able to inherit it down to Donald, who has managed to bankrupt like 5 companies. But when you start with $100 billion and you lose $85 billion, you still have $15 billion left. You're doing okay. Now, sadly for Mr. Trump, most of America doesn't have $15 billion. They're lucky if they have $100. And if you lose 85 of them, you're down to $15. You're in a bit of trouble.
Wait, doesn't Donald Trump have like a tower in like downtown Vancouver?
He has well, he doesn't have a tower. There's a tower in downtown Vancouver called the Trump Tower. But that is another story for another day. Remember, as of November, we won't have to care anymore because maybe he'll finally go away. What?
One of Donald Trump's ancestors changed their last name.
Yes.
to Trump.
Yes, because he's Dutch. All right. I know. What are you going to do? Or German. I can't remember what he is. All right. Now, the next thing, the legs. The legs are the other 2 sides. And they are interchangeable. Okay? The only one that's special is the hypotenuse. It has to always be the hypotenuse. Okay? The other 2 are just the legs. Everybody cool? Now, you already know how to do this. What is the Pythagorean theorem? I give it to you right here. Here's the problem. You guys, I am willing to bet Donald Trump's $85 billion that this is how you were taught the Pythagorean theorem. I am betting that your teachers went through it all. They probably got you to get some graph paper, and they probably got you to draw a line and then another line, and then they probably made you make a square, and this was 9, and this was 4, and then they got you to measure this side, and you found out that was 9, and that was 9, and that was what? Shut up.
I have no idea.
Did they just tell you a squared, b squared, c squared? See, that's the problem. That's the problem. You don't know why it works. Okay, I'm cool with that. Whatever. Whatever floats your boat, whatever gets through the night, whatever paddles your canoe, whatever ices your cake. I get it. But of course, what is really happening, ladies and gentlemen, if you can indulge me for a moment, is the way Mr. Pythagoras discovered it was he got a line. Let's say it was 4 units long. And this line was 3 units long. And then he made a square. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, by 4 to get a square, right? And that is 16. Then he made this square, which was 3 by 3, which was 9. And then he looked over here and said, hey, wait a minute. If I draw the 3rd square of this triangle, I get 5 by 5, which is 25, which is crazy because 9 and 16 is 25. That's how Pythagoras actually came about. Everybody cool? Now there's the problem with just doing a squared, b squared, c squared is what I'm about to show you. All of you should be able to solve that then, yes? Where is A? Either 8 or 15, because legs are interchangeable, right? A. So what does that make this? B. So what does that make this? C. Everyone agrees? So now if you do Mrs. Bad Crumbles, grade 6 Pythagoras, you're going to go, all right, well, first of all, you would never write out the formula because I watch you guys. You don't write out the formula. But you would do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And then hopefully you would go 8 squared plus 15 squared would get me c squared. And then, of course, you would say, yes, I must square root at the end. 64 plus 225 equals c squared. 289 equals c squared. And then, of course, you would find that c was 17. You could all do that in your sleep, couldn't you? You would have to use your calculator, but that's okay, right? And then what would you do over here? You would hopefully label it A, B, C. Recognize, oh, wait, I have a hypotenuse, so I must have to do subtraction, right? And you hopefully would go 12 squared minus 8 squared would get you a squared, right? And that would be 144 minus 64 would get you a squared, yeah? Which would be 80 would be a squared, right? And then your last step would be to square root 80, wouldn't it? Which we know would be about 8.9, right? Because square root of 81 is 9. So it would be about 8.9 would equal A. Is everybody cool with that? That's what you would do, yes? Now here's the problem. What if you get a triangle that is labeled wrong? For example, I, being a mean person, label this triangle C, B, A. And you don't actually understand Pythagoras. You only know a squared, b squared, c squared. What happens then? You do it wrong. And how many of you fill in the formula with the wrong numbers, do all the work, and get the wrong answer and say, my calculator said so? A lot of you. Because I've marked this question 1,000,000 times. Do you understand what I'm saying? So please, 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 please remember, if the letters are different, the rule stays the same. And the way I like to do Pythagoras is leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. I don't like using A, B, and C because as you go further and further into math, you use more and more letters for more and more things, and your heads get filled up with letters, not concepts. Do you understand what I'm saying? Kind of like when we were doing the height of a cylinder, right? H. Well, if I turn it this way, now it's this tall. No, that's still the diameter. Picking up what I'm putting down? So I like to do leg, hypotenuse because that's what is actually going on. Is everyone cool? All right, now take a moment and see if you can figure these out. Because right now, number 2A, is it possible to do? If this is 20, can I do this question? Do I know that this is 20? No, I don't. So right now, as it's written, can I do that problem? No. You need more information, don't you? Bigger triangle. Which is the bigger triangle? This one? That's the one you mean? What do you mean by do that one? I'll ask Kiara because she put her hand up. Yeah, see what I did there? I Mrs. Bad crumbled you. So Kiara says I got to do that. And once I do that, then what does this become? Does it? You're guaranteeing me you're cutting that triangle in half? Here's the problem with that thinking, Kiara. What if I draw a triangle like this? And I cut it right there to make a 90. Is that cut in half? No. So I like what you're thinking, but does it work? So does somebody else said just do the big triangle. What do I got to do, Sammy? So you're going to do Pythagoras, and I'm going to highlight in green. You're going to do Pythagoras on this triangle with this as C, this is A, and this is B. Hold. Are you allowed to do that? Why not? What does Pythagoras work with? Only one kind of triangle. A 90-degree triangle. Is that green triangle 90 degrees? Exactly. That's my point, right? So I'll ask again. Is this question possible right now with your knowledge? No, you need another piece of information, right? If I make this 90, does Sammy's work? Yep. If I make this 20, can we do it? Does everybody understand? Will they be the same answer? No. But does everybody see what I'm doing? Do you see why I'm putting this in your notes like this? How many of you, and you can be honest because it's notes, how many of you looked at that and said, yeah, I got this, I can do it? Everybody, right? Because it looks like we can do it. Is that allowed in math class? Are you allowed to say something is so in math class just because it looks like it is so? No. Math is what we use to prove things. Everybody understand? So right now we couldn't do it, right? But if I add one more piece of information, so the point I'm trying to make is A can't be done without more info. Okay? Why am I doing this to you? To let you know that just because it looks good doesn't mean it's going to be so. All right? Now, I'm going to add the one piece of information that, since this is a lesson on Pythagoras, what am I going to add? What's the extra piece of information I'm going to give you? I'm going to give you the 90 degree. Now we can do it, can't we? Right? Because if I know this side, can I use that to find that side? Now let me ask you this. What should you give this side? You need to give it something now. What would you give it? I'd give it a name. I'd call that Y. Because once you know Y, you can do X, can't you? Is everybody with me? Now, some of you have probably already done this because it's what you thought you needed to do in the first place, right? So go ahead. You're going to start with 35 squared minus 20 squared and square root that, and that's going to give you Y, correct? Does everybody agree with me? Yeah? Right? So what is that? Pardon me? In Pythagoras, yes. So 35 squared minus 20 squared gets me 825. Now here's the problem. This gets me a big yucky decimal, doesn't it? 35 squared minus 20 squared? 35 squared minus 20 squared. Oops, wrong button. 35 squared minus... I get 825, and then you got to square root it. 28 and a bunch of decimals. That's the point I'm trying to make, right? So I'm going to go ahead and write this as 28 point whatever that is. I'm just going to write 28.7. Now, here's the thing. On my calculator screen right now, do I have the whole big long number? Do you think? Yeah. I want to leave it there because I also know that 28.7 squared minus 10 squared, square root that, will get me x, won't it? Now, since this 28.7 is already on my calculator, right, I just need to square it, don't I? Right? So that's going to be, I just hit the squared button, minus 10 squared, and that gets me what? You've already got it on your calculator. You should be able to get that. And what do you get for x? I'm interested to see. Because this is calculator work, right? But then what do you got to do at the end of every Pythagoras question? 26, not 66, you dummy. 26.9. Is everybody cool? Do I know that you know how to do Pythagoras? Of course I do. Right? But when you were doing Pythagoras back in the day, in grade 7 or 8 or whenever it was taught to you, most likely you might have done it once in a question, right? Now you've got to be aware that it is a tool you are going to use to solve bigger and more difficult questions. It is going to be one of the steps you take. In grade 6, I would have only given you one triangle, right? We would have only done the big triangle, and we'd been like, yay, we can do it! And then we'd stop and move on to something else, wouldn't we? And never again talk about it until we needed in grade 10 to do a 20-page question. Then we'd remind you. See the problem? All right, let's do the next one. Can you do the next one? As it is right now, can you do it?
Yeah.
Why? So, can I find that? How? I'd Pythagoras this triangle, yes? Because he's got a 90. So that's going to be the square root of 20 squared plus 10 squared, yes? Does everyone agree? Which would be the square root of 500. Is everyone okay with that? Does everyone agree? Now, can I use that to find x right now? Cassie, why not? Still not a right angle there. Yeah, I thought he was too, actually. I thought he was going to go, way to go! Can I do it? No. Again, what do I need? A right angle. Now, I'm going to teach you guys how to do this later on without a right angle. Okay? I'm not going to leave you swaying in the breeze. Right? But this again, I still need info. If I add that in, then we can do it in our sleep, can't we? Right? Then it becomes, now do I know the two legs? So it's the square root of 500 squared plus 25 squared will get me x squared, won't it? Square of 500 squared is 500 plus 625 gets me x squared. 1125 gets me x squared. And the last step is always square root. So x is going to be whatever that is, which is going to be 35? 33? What is it? 30? 33.5. Is everybody cool? Now, there's 4 minutes left in class or 6 minutes left in class or some crap like that. I don't care. I don't know what it is. Your next page should be 2 blank triangles. Is it? We're going to talk about them tomorrow. Your next page after that should be a couple of tables. Yeah, we're going to talk about them tomorrow. Then the next thing you guys have should be, if I am not mistaken, a Pythagorean worksheet with a bunch of triangles on it, yeah? I want that sheet done for Woden's Day, Wednesday. Okay, because tomorrow you're writing a test. So tonight you study for your test. Tomorrow you come in here, you write the test. Let's say you finish the test that I give you 80 minutes for. Let's say you finish it in 60 minutes. What should you do? Work on the Pythagoras sheet so you got no homework tomorrow night. Okay? Now, Merrick, could you be so kind as to turn one more page so I can see what the next page in your notes is? It's more Pythagoras?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so guys, please notice that Pythagoras sheet is double-sided. I want that whole sheet done for Wednesday, okay? I'm going to write it up on the board so nobody can say, Mr. Mars, you didn't tell us. Yeah. So which is A, which is B, and which is C? Picking up what I'm putting down? That's the problem with doing ABC. If you don't do leg, hypotenuse, then when you change the letters, everyone's like, I don't know what to do.
I was doing this worksheet last night for like review.
Oh, yeah?
I missed it.
Yep.
And I got